thou art great. In the ocean, thou art great. O God, beautiful, O God, beautiful. O God, beautiful, O God, beautiful. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. At thy feet, oh, I do bow. O God, beautiful, O God, beautiful. O God, beautiful, O God, beautiful. To the serviceful thou art service. To the serviceful thou art service. To the lover thou art love. To the lover thou art love. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the sorrowful thou art sympathy. To the yogi thou
Hello, good evening. Namaste, everybody. Jai Guru to all. Welcome to today's class on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Let us begin today's session with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Bhagwan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, Beloved Gurudev Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, Friend and guide Swami Kriyananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, great sages Vedvyas, Maharshi Patanjali, Adi Shankaracharya, humbly we bow and touch thy feet. Heavenly Father, help me to know that within my soul I possess thy unconquerable, unchangeable, ever new bliss, so that disaster cannot touch me, disease, fate. Let us sing the hymn to Brahma. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmanandam The King of the Infinite is our own Father and Mother. He is also present in our own heart. Therefore, we have nothing to fear. Let us now hear a few thoughts on energy by Swami Kriyananda. Energy is ours not when we hoard our strength, but when we devote it willingly, joyously, towards the attainment of that in which we deeply believe. Faith and energy go hand in hand. If you have deep faith in what you are doing, you can move mountains. Energy is always highest when one's cause is just. The greater one's faith, the greater his willpower. And the greater his willpower, the greater his flow of energy. Let us do the following affirmation. Within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Mentally follow this prayer. O cosmic energy, vitalize all the cells of my body. Recharge my mind with boundless inspiration. Fill my soul with thy inexhaustible joy. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. With that, we come to our storytelling session, and we are continuing to study Master's miracles. And I will read out a few miracles today, starting with the one that Swamiji relates that happened with him. He says, it is less amazing, less impressive, but indeed it is still a miracle, and he remembers it very fondly. So Swamiji says, another miracle, far less amazing, but still impressive, occurred while Norman and I were plastering the side of a garage. The structure stood near the front gate. The plaster we were using was evidently old, for it kept hardening, and I had constantly to soften it with more water. A certain point came when I had just mixed a new load of plaster and poured it out on the board. Just then, the master's car drove up on its way out the gate. It stopped, and we heard Master call out to us. We came down and spoke with him. He held us there for about half an hour, talking on a variety of subjects. We were, of course, delighted to be with him. But in the backs of the mind was the thought, we'll have to take a sledgehammer to that plaster when we get back to the job. Finally, Master released us about a half an hour later. On returning to our work, we found to our amazement that the plaster was as soft as though fresh plaster had been newly poured onto the board. We had no more trouble with the plaster for the rest of that day. This is very interesting. Actually, if we have observed closely in our own lives, we would have found some tasks which we found difficult to do initially. We were getting many challenges. But then in between or while doing the task, if we prayed, to master, if we called for his help, and then we continued to do the task, it became easier at some point in time. And then after that, it became such a flow that we did not have any obstacle, any trouble doing that same work after that point. So I think all of us here would have had some of such an incident in our own life. Okay, so another miracle. Outside Boston, during Master's early years in America, Dr. Lewis and some other people were in his car, driving to participate in a spiritual gathering. It was snowing heavily, so Dr. Lewis drove very carefully. As they came to a narrow bridge, however, another car traveling in the opposite direction skidded suddenly and stopped in a position that took up the whole road. A collision seemed certain. Just at that moment, as if a giant hand were being placed on the hood of the doctor's car, an unknown force brought the vehicle to a complete stop, only inches away from the other car. A similar incident. Swamiji says, the stopping of a vehicle has happened once more that I know of. Norman was driving a large flatbed truck down the steep incline below Mount Washington. At the bottom, as you know, Norman told us later that there is a sharp corner below which there is a steep embankment. If I'd gone over that, I'd have been a goner. But when I tried to brake for the turn, the brakes failed. I tried frantically to pump them. They wouldn't work at all. I then looked up briefly and I prayed to Master, is this what you want? Suddenly, it was as though a large hand had been placed on the hood of the truck, and the truck was able to stop immediately and to curb it by turning the wheels in towards the side. All I can say is, I guess Master still wants me around. So these are miracles that have happened to devotees and disciples. These are life-saving miracles, and don't think they're impossible. I personally have had miracles. Life has been spared and difficulty has been reduced. So all of this is possible. We are sharing these stories now so that we know that Master is present always. It is only a matter of us pausing in that moment and calling upon him. So however big the difficulty may appear, Master is always there to help, whether it's a small difficulty or it's a large difficulty. The Masters are always there. In fact, there's another story which Swamiji told about Mahavtar Babaji. So there was this plumber working on the plumb line at one of the ashrams, and he was unable, there was problem with the motor and the piping, so he was unable to fix it. There was a big problem, he was unable to do it. And then after trying the best that he could, he just paused a moment, he sat there and he remembered the line in the autobiography where Lahiri Maharshya has said that whoever takes Babaji's name with reverence is given an instant blessing. So in that moment, he called upon Babaji to help him. And after that brief pause, when he got back to working with the motor, he could fix it in one go, and then it never gave him the trouble. So the important thing here is that grace is always present. It is always available. It is up to us to turn towards that light, to, as loving children, demand for help when we need it, and of course do our bit in solving the situation that we face every day. Okay, so with that thought, we move on to our Yoga Sutras. Last time we were on Sutra number 32, where Patanjali pointed out all the niyamas, and he said, Shoch, Santosh, Tapaha, Swadhyay, Ishvara, Pranidana, Niyama. And we discussed extensively last time what each of them means and how we can practice them. The next few sutras are very interesting, brief but very interesting. So, sutra number 33. Vitark badhane pratipaksh bhavanam. So, Patanjali is saying, when troubling and deviant thoughts present themselves, one should counter these by cultivating the opposite principle. Swami Kriyananda says, when disturbed by negative thoughts, think of their polar opposites. For example, when you are disturbed by the thought of dislike for someone, concentrate on the people you like. When you feel anger, tell yourself, this is God's world, not mine. He knows what he is doing. Why should I assume responsibility for anything that happens? Another example, Swamiji says, give love when others give you hatred. See in all of them the desire for the very same goal you have, happiness. Thus, you will come to feel love for everyone on earth. Okay, so the important thing of this sutra is कि जब भी हमारे दिमाग में कोई भी गलत या नेगेटिव विचार आए तो उसको कैंसिल करने का सबसे आसान तरीका क्या है, उसके ऑपोजिट अच्छा विचार इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाए, एक पॉजिटिव थॉट इंट्रोड्यूस की जाए. इससे कैसे फायदा होगा, हमने वृत्तिज के बारे में जब पढ़ा था, हमने कहा था एनी मूवमेंट ऑफ द माइंड स्टफ इज अ वृत्तिज लाइक अ वेव और अ व्हर्लपूल. सो एनी थॉट इज लाइक अ वेव. सो सपोज एक नेगेटिव थॉट की वेव अराइज हुई है हमारे माइंड स्टफ में, जिससे हमारे को रेस्टलेसनेस हो रही है, उसको कैंसिल करने के लिए हमें एक और इक्वल या उससे भी पावरफुल वेव क्रिएट करनी है, जिससे कि वो एनर्जी कैंसिल आउट हो जाएगी. तो ये तो बहुत ही आसान, ये देखो चाबी पकड़ा दी है पतंजलि ने हमें. हमारे माइंड में निरंतर थॉट्स आती हैं, उसमें से कई सारी नेगेटिव होती हैं. अगर एक योगी अवेयर है तो वो उसी समय उसको पकड़ लेगा दैट ओ दिस नेगेटिव थॉट इज कमिंग इन माय माइंड एंड इट इज इन्वॉल्विंग माय इंटेंशन, इट इज वांटिंग मी टू एंगेज इन इट. So instead of that engagement with the negative thought, immediately consciously create a positive thought. जैसे कि अगर किसी के बारे में बुरा विचार आ रहा है कि हाय वो कितना गंदा है, उसके साथ तो ऐसा हो जाए वैसा हो जाए, अगर ये विचार आ रहा है आपके माइंड में, इसके साथ एंगेज मत होइए. So firstly, disown the thought. You say, I am not the originator of the thought. The thought is coming to me, of course, because I am magnetizing it in some way, but that is the secondary thing. Recognize that this negative thought is coming in my mind and I am not creating it. Once you've recognized that, how do I cancel it? It is starting to trouble me. How do I cancel it? I can pray for that person. Suppose किसी person के बारे में बुरा ख्याल आ रहा है या ऐसा लग रहा है कि उसके साथ बुरा हो जाए, या अगर उसके साथ बुरा हो रहा है तो आप अगर मन में ये कह रहे हो कि अच्छा वो उसके साथ बुरा हुआ, उसको he deserved it, something like this. These thoughts are not worthy thoughts. We should not be having such thoughts. It is not our place to judge कि किसके साथ क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, और वो सही है या नहीं है. Suppose ऐसा विचार है, I'm just giving an example, और कई बार आते हैं ऐसे विचार, तो उसी समय जो भी नेगेटिव विचार है उसको कैंसिल आउट करने के लिए एक पॉजिटिव थॉट इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए. अगर हेट्रेड की थॉट है तो लव इंट्रोड्यूस करो. फियर को भी कॉन्कर किया जाता है फेथ एंड ट्रस्ट एंड लव फॉर गॉड से. इसी तरह वरी एंड एंजाइटी है तो स्ट्रेंथ एंड करेज की थॉट इंट्रोड्यूस करो. अगर फिर भी हैंडल नहीं हो पा रहा तो गिविंग इट टू गॉड, होल्डिंग गॉड रिस्पॉन्सिबल, जैसे स्वामी जी ने कहा, ये थॉट इंट्रोड्यूस करो. गॉड इज द डूअर. नहीं काम कंप्लीट हो पा रहा, थक रहे हो और मन में फिर से नेगेटिव विचार आ रहे हैं, गॉड इज द डूअर, दिस इज गॉड्स एनर्जी, दिस इज गॉड्स वर्क. सो सम पॉजिटिव थॉट which frees you of the negative entanglement, you have to consciously introduce that, and that is the solution which Patanjali has beautifully and very simply given in few words. So this is, I think, today's takeaway message. अगर हम केवल इस पे भी काम कर लें तो भी हम बहुत कुछ अचीव कर सकते हैं और हमारा माइंड की रेस्टलेसनेस हम कॉन्शियसली कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. सो हियर इज अ थिंग वेयर वृत्तिज आर अराइजिंग एंड वी आर कॉन्शियसली ट्राइंग टू सबड्यू देम. ओके, so we come to the next sutra, sutra 34. ये काफी लंबा है सूत्र, पर इसका मीनिंग सिंपल है. so let me just go through it first. It says, वितर्का हिंसादय कृत कारितानुमोदिता लोभ क्रोध मोह पूर्वका मृदु मध्याम धिमात्रा दुख ज्ञान अनंत फल इति प्रतिपक्ष भावना. Pratipaksh means opposite, bhavana means thought in this context. Okay, so what he is saying here, Swamiji explains this, Swami Kriyananda. He says, when negative thoughts arise in the mind, or when one feels impelled to commit acts of violence, whether out of craving, anger, or infatuation, lobh, krodh, moh, and whether indulged in with mild, moderate, or extreme intensity, यानी कि thought की intensity mild है, moderate या extreme है. Such thoughts and impulses are all based on ignorance and are certain to cause one pain. At such times too, think their opposite thoughts. So in this sutra, Patanjali has now become very specific. In the last sutra, he said कि कोई भी negative thought आए तो उसके against एक positive thought introduce करो. Now he is specifically saying कि अगर हिंसा का विचार आए, craving की वजह से, मोह की वजह से, attachment की वजह से, गुस्से की वजह से या लोभ की वजह से, किसी भी वजह से अगर कोई नकारात्मक आपके अंदर विचार आता है, तो आप उसको, और चाहे आप उसको माइल्डली इंडल्ज कर रहे हो या मॉडरेटली, आप कहोगे नहीं मैं तो कैजुअली सोच रहा हूँ उस बारे में, तो दैट इज नॉट द क्वेश्चन. इज सेइंग वेदर इट इज माइल्ड, मॉडरेट और सिवियर और एक्सट्रीम इंटेंसिटी. ये फर्स्टली वी शुड रिमेंबर दैट दीज थॉट्स आर बोर्न ऑफ इग्नोरेंस, बिकॉज हम कहते हैं ये हमें विचार आया तो ईगो इज रिलेटेड ओवर देयर. सो दीज कैन ऑल्सो बी काउंटर्ड by introducing an opposite thought of equal intensity. So अगर mild आ रहा है तो अगर आप mild इंट्रोड्यूस करोगे तो कैंसिल हो जाएगा, लेकिन बेटर है कि पॉजिटिव थॉट इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो तो व्हाई नॉट डू इट मॉडरेटली एंड सिवियरली, एज इन एक एफर्मेशन डाल दो बीच में, एफर्मेशन को स्ट्रांगली अपने अंदर विद कन्विक्शन उसको ठहराओ, या फिर बहुत जोर से आप जप करने लग जाओ या चैंट करने लग जाओ, भगवान को पुकारो, एक इंटेंस प्रेयर उस समय करो. तो ऐसा आप कर सकते हैं जब भी आपको नेगेटिव विचार आए, चाहे वो किसी भी कारण से आए. Negative thoughts and impulses occur sometimes in the mind, even of basically positive people. So I would say people who are present here are basically positive, and yet sometimes negative thoughts do come in. Even saintly people may sometimes feel the sudden impulse to shout angrily at others. These thoughts and impulses must be brought under control. They must never be indulged in. And if in a moment of laxity they are indulged, one must be perfectly truthful with himself and never excuse or justify that sudden jerk of the mind as due to any influence but his own ignorance. When such thoughts or impulses arise in the mind, fill your mind with their opposites. For example, when a craving arises, tell yourself, I need nothing. I want to share everything with all. When anger arises, be especially accepting of whatever happens in your life, of whatever people say or do to you. When you feel infatuation towards someone or for any object, tell yourself, I want God alone. In myself, I am ever free. If a human face haunts you, think forcibly of some divine image and tell yourself, that is infinitely more attractive. So be smart here. That's what Patanjali is saying. Be aware and then be smart. Okay. So next sutra is Sutra 35. And from this sutra onwards, Patanjali is going to explain that what is going to happen when you practice the yam and the niyama. So starting from the yamas, from ahimsa, in Sutra 35, Patanjali says, ahimsa pratisthayam tat sanidhav vair tyagaha, meaning non-killing. So first we'll go with what Swami Vivekananda ji says and then Swami Kriyananda ji. So Swami Vivekananda says, non-killing being established, in his presence, all enmities cease in others. So once a person has established non-violence or non-killing as a principle in himself, then in his presence, in the presence of that person, all enmities will disappear. If a man gets the idea of non-injuring others, before him, even animals, which are by their nature ferocious, will become peaceful. The tiger and the lamb will play together before that yogi, and will not hurt each other. When you have come to that state, then alone you will understand that you have become firmly established in non-injuring. So अब हमने तो बहुत सारी कहानियां सुनी हुई हैं, स्पेशली अगर हम दुष्यंत शकुंतला की कहानी लेते हैं जिसमें भरत पैदा होता है और शकुंतला और भरत जंगल में ही रहते हैं, वो वहीं तपस्या करते हैं, वहीं बैठते हैं, और उनके आसपास अगर आप अमर चित्र कथा पढ़ें तो उसके आसपास दिखाया गया है कि कैसे शेर घूम रहे होते हैं और वहीं पे लैम भी घूम रहे हैं, डियर भी घूम रहे हैं, हर तरह के एनिमल्स हैं, लेकिन कोई भी किसी को इंजर नहीं कर रहा है, सब प्रेम पूर्वक एक सिंक्रोनिसिटी से रह रहे हैं। ऐसा क्यों संभव है? क्योंकि वो योगी ने अपने आप को नॉन वायलेंस में परफेक्ट कर लिया है। किसी को उसके सामने डिफेंसिव या ऑफेंसिव होने की जरूरत ही नहीं है। He is established so much in non-hurting, and that will be possible when he has so much love in his heart and compassion for everybody, every atom of the universe. तब किसी में भी वो enmity आएगी ही नहीं। तो ये पावर जो है ये हम भी डेवलप कर सकते हैं, एटलीस्ट कुछ एक्सटेंट तक तो कर ही सकते हैं। इनफैक्ट इफ यू हैव नोटिस्ड क्लोजली, जो पेट एनिमल्स हैं या स्ट्रीट एनिमल्स हैं, ओवर द इयर्स जितने यहाँ क्रिया योगी बैठे हैं, I'm sure the behavior of pet and street animals towards you would have changed to some extent by now. If you have not observed, start observing. The animal may feel more settled in your presence. So just watch what is happening, because these are goals that are set by Patanjali, and he's given that if you perfect yourself in this particular yama, then this is the result that is going to happen. And we remember stories from Master's life when someone actually pointed a gun towards Master, and Master just looked that person deep in the eyes, and he dropped that gun in. That person started to cry. There was so much love coming from those eyes. He was Master, of course, was non-injuring, and he had so much love for everybody that he was able to unarm that person. And that person did not need to do any offense or be defensive in the presence of a master. And this state is achievable by anybody who practices non-violence perfectly. And that is why Gandhiji practiced this principle. And although some people say that he did it to the extreme, but unless one person did it to an extreme, it wouldn't be so powerful as to attract and magnetize so many people together to then be able to do all the things they were able to do. So at least one man has to try to do it perfectly, even if it appears a little eccentric to some others. But the truth is that one person tried to practice this one thing so perfectly that it created so much energy and magnetism to draw millions of Indians then to him and then to follow his instructions. Okay, so sutra number, okay, a little bit more on this. So Swamiji says, even wild animals will act tamely in your presence. Such will be your magnetic aura that even if people are fighting among themselves, they will become kind and calm. Have you noticed this? Have you noticed this around, that if you enter and people are bit angry or irritable, and when you're there, after some time the energy starts to settle. Start noting all these things. Swamiji says, I know many stories from the lives of saints I have encountered that support the truth of this saying. Cobras withdrew their hoods, tigers became friendly as pussycats, criminals converted to a better way of life. The answer to threatened violence is to project a calm spirit of harmlessness. But remember, the greater the opposing force, the greater must also be the magnetism with which you confront it. Okay, so there's a story which Devi ji tells, and I think her friends or someone had gone to a tiger reserve, and there in a small hut, a Swami was living, and at night the tigers would come. The Swami would go out and be with the tigers, and they wouldn't say anything to him. But then once he had guests staying with them, and they also thought that they would go out and be with the tigers. But the Swami said, no, you have not perfected your love enough because the energy coming out of that what does that mean? So if we have not perfected our love enough, that means some seed of being afraid of an external thing will be there. And once that seed is there, we are in instinctive thought of protecting ourselves will come, and that little energy, little vortex of energy means that we cannot be 100% harmless. If somebody tries to attack us, we might want to react. So even that little vortex of energy which is present in self-defense, even that has to disappear, because you have to trust that everything is made of love and nothing can harm you, and therefore you also need not harm anybody. So we have to be careful here, and that's why Swamiji says that however jitni power सामने वाली शक्ति की है, उतनी ही पावर या उससे ज्यादा पावर आपकी जब हो जाएगी, तब आप ये और ज्यादा मैनिफेस्ट कर सकोगे. तो जैसे जैसे हम नॉन वायलेंस में हमारा डीपन होते जाते हैं और हमारे मन में विचार भी नहीं आता कि किसी का भी बुरा हो, चाहे वो ह्यूमन बीइंग है, चाहे वो एनिमल है, इंसेक्ट है, कोई भी है, हम एटलीस्ट वी डोंट वांट टू हार्म देम. ऑफ कोर्स कई एनिमल्स और इंसेक्ट्स किल हो जाते हैं ऑन अ डे टू डे बेसिस, बट इट इज नॉट आवर इंटेंशन एट ऑल to harm any of those. So we should be very clear on that. Sutra number 36. Patanjali says, Satya pratisthayam kriya phala shrayatvam. Meaning, Satya of course we know is truth. Pratisthayam means upon firm establishment, means uski perfection se kya hoga. Kriya phala ashrayatam means जो एक्शन है उसका फ्रूट मिलेगा. तो इसको हम डिटेल में समझते हैं. Swami Vivekananda says, by the establishment of truthfulness, the yogi gets the power of attaining for himself and others the fruits of work without the work. So just by thinking. If one is so perfect in truthfulness, then just by thinking, he is able to accomplish work. And in fact, if somebody asks him or requests him, तो उनका काम भी हो जाता है just by thinking. करने से तो होगा ही, बट सोचने से भी हो जाता है. इनफैक्ट स्वामी जी ने राजयोगा बुक में हमें बताया हुआ है कि that person by being truthful is so much in sync with the universal flow that when he utters a word, then the universe has to abide by that energy. So and इसीलिए जब पुराने जमाने में कोई वरदान देता था या श्राप देता था, हम जब छोटे होते थे पिक्चर में देखते थे, हमें लगता था कि ऐसे ही बोल रहे हैं, ऐसे थोड़ी होता है कि कोई बोल दे तो ऐसा हो संभव हो जाएगा. लेकिन ये हो सकता है, ये हो सकता है. इसको वाच सिद्धि कहते हैं. तो ये जो उनके साथ होता है जो एकदम ट्रूथफुल होते हैं स्पीच में, थॉट में और एक्शन में. So they say what they mean what they say, and so on. So और इसको कई वर्षों तक प्रैक्टिस करने के बाद, at least 12, that's what some books say, उसके बाद ये डेवलप काफी हद तक होने लगता है. When this power of truth will be established in you, then even in dream you will never tell an untruth. In thought, word or deed, whatever you say will be the truth. You may say to a man, be blessed, and that man will be blessed. If a man is diseased and you say to him, be thou cured, he will be cured immediately. And we have seen so many avatars healing people by the power of their truth, of their abidance with the universal truth, with Sanatana Dharma. If so all the saints, if they hug a leper, they touch the leper, they say be thou healed. Jesus would tell people to just, people who were crippled for 35 years, he would just say, stand up and fold your mat and walk, and they would walk. Isn't it amazing? These things are there in our literature, in our shastras, and somehow our attention never went towards them. और casual झूठ बोलना, ऐसे ही हर चीज को casual ले लेना, हमने कितना समय बिताया है वैसा करने में भी. But it's high time that we are aware about the depth of the matter, and then we modify our life accordingly. Swami Kriyananda ji says, to one who is firmly established in truthfulness, his very word becomes binding on objective reality. Whether he says, whatever he says must come to pass. To be truthful is to be in tune with things as they really are. But the truthfulness of which I write is a dynamic truthfulness spoken in the realization that truth itself is inspiring and far more than a dull fact. So, if we have learned from this, we would be really careful about what we are saying. एक लेवल पे ही हम कंट्रोल, एक बार स्पीच पे कंट्रोल आएगा तो धीरे धीरे थॉट पे भी कंट्रोल आएगा. सो ये हमें कोशिश निरंतर करनी पड़ेगी. जो अर्ज होती है ना कई बार एक कैजुअल झूठ बोलने की, उसको उससे हमें ऊपर उठना होगा. और फिर हम ऐसा नहीं चाह रहे, हमारी ये इंटेंशन नहीं है कि हम जो बोले वो मतलब होता जाए और हमारे को लोग हमारी आरती उतारे लोग, ऐसा नहीं. हमारी इच्छा है प्रभु में लीन होने की. वी वांट गॉड रियलाइजेशन, वी वांट सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन. द सेल्फ इज ऑलवेज प्योर एंड इन ट्रूथ, एंड देयरफॉर बाय नॉन लाइंग we are wanting to come to our true nature. That's all we want. In the process we may develop the siddhi of which is called vacha siddhi, means जो बोले वो सच वो हो जाए उसी समय, वो अलग बात है. लेकिन हमने ध्यान उस पर नहीं देना है और उसमें इगोइक इन्वॉल्वमेंट तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं दिखानी है. हमारा एम है यूनिवर्सल ट्रूथ के साथ एक हो जाना, और उसके लिए नॉन लाइंग जो है बहुत जरूरी है. सूत्र नंबर 37. अस्तेय प्रतिष्ठायाम सर्व रत्नो उपस्थानाम. मीनिंग अब ये बता रहे हैं कि अस्तेय यानी कि नॉन स्टीलिंग की क्या परफेक्शन होती है. By the establishment of non-stealing, all wealth comes to the yogi. The more you fly from nature, the more nature will follow you. And if you do not care for her at all, she becomes your slave. Swami Kriyananda says, to one who is established in non-covetousness, means non-stealing, all riches come. When you have no desire for others' possessions or for what is not yours by right, there comes an inner relaxation which produces the magnetism to attract whatever you need in life. Isn't that amazing? So, again, observe your own life. Ever since you have come on the spiritual path, you would have found that जिन चीजों के लिए आपको बहुत ज्यादा एफर्ट लगता था, वो क्यों एफर्ट लगता था? क्योंकि हम इगोइक पॉइंट से सोचते थे. हम सोचते थे कि हमें ही करना है, सारा कुछ हमें ही सोचना पड़ेगा, हमें ही करना पड़ेगा. और उसके लिए कई बार हम कटिंग कॉर्नर्स करते थे, और ये थॉट कभी किसी का क्रेडिट ले लिया, किसी को बताया नहीं, और ऐसे छोटी छोटी चीजें जो हैं किसी का पीस में हमने खलल डाला, तो जो हमने रियलाइज नहीं की चीजें पहले. लेकिन अब आफ्टर वी ऑल केम ऑन द स्पिरिचुअल पाथ, वी ट्राई टू मॉडिफाई our own behavior, and we have found, I can say at least for myself, we have found that things too, whatever you really need, actually it just comes your way some way, in the form of a person, in the form of a book, in the form of a situation. Suddenly something will pop up. If you really need it, Master and God already know what we need, but we do not need to go outward and grab things. We do not need to do that. We just need to be centered. We need to have the trust, and we need to do our own little job. Once we do that, all that we will need in terms of knowledge, in terms of finances, in terms of friends, all that a human being has, it will automatically be drawn towards you. So be careful about these things. Again, कभी भी दूसरे की चीज, जैसे कभी कोई गिफ्ट भी कर जाता है सपोज, तो भी एक तो सोच, हमने पहले डिस्कस किया था कि कॉर्पोरेट गिफ्ट्स आते हैं तो सोच समझ के ही गिफ्ट एक्सेप्ट करें, बिकॉज आप दूसरे की वाइब्रेशंस एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं, पहली बात. ऑल्सो उसने वो गिफ्ट को किस तरह के पैसे से कमाया है, वो पैसा कितनी सफाई से उसने खुद कमाया, कितनी सच्चाई से, वो सारी बातें मैटर करती हैं. एक तो ये गिफ्ट वाली बात होगी. दूसरी, अगर आप किसी ने आपको लेंड किया है, चाहे वो बुक है चाहे वो पेन है, तो उसके ऊपर बिल्कुल भी ना सोचे कि कोई बात नहीं, पेन ही तो है, मैं ही रख लेता हूँ. ऐसा नहीं सोचें. बी वेरी वेरी ब्यूटिफुल इन दिस कि किसी से कुछ लिया है तो उसको जरूर लौटाएं, और अगर कोई कुछ मांगे आपसे तो जरूर दे दें. ऐसा मास्टर ने भी कहा है, ऐसा जीसस भी कहते थे. जीसस कहते थे, if somebody asks for a hat, you give them your coat. If somebody asks you to come for a few steps, you go to whole mile. So you can be with them. So give more of yourself rather than grabbing from the outside world. Give more of yourself. And of course, yourself will include your things and all of that. Whatever you can give, you share with others, and do not think of having anything that does not belong to you. And later, of course, Swamiji says you cannot even hoard what you think belongs to you, because actually nothing belongs to us. Okay. Now, Sutra number 38. And in this, Patanjali will explain what was the perfection that comes by the practice of Brahmacharya. So, Brahmacharya pratisthayam virya labha, meaning by the establishment of continence, energy is gained. The chaste brain has tremendous energy and gigantic willpower. All men of gigantic brains are very, very continent. It gives wonderful control over the mind. Many leaders of men have been very content and continent, and this is what gave them power. So, of course, it gives a lot of physical and mental vitality. If we remember the story of Swami Vivekananda, who was given the Encyclopedia Britannica, and in I think 1 or 2 days, he returned the whole series and telling the owner that I've read it. And the owner was just laughing and not believing that he actually read it. So Swamiji challenged that person to ask him any question. And when that person asked him a variety of questions, Swamiji was able to answer all the questions perfectly. And that's what, gives such people power. So he was a celibate. Our guru was a celibate, and he could speak so many languages. Swamiji said this, that if somebody from Spain would come, somebody from Mexico would come, they would speak in their language, but master would understand and would reply them appropriately. In fact, even when doctors would come and talk in their medical terms, master just knew what they were saying and would respond to them appropriately. So these are powers that the saints and masters gain by following all the yamas and the niyamas. And these powers are available to all of us as devotees and disciples. If we are sincere on the path to spirituality, all of the siddhis that are mentioned here are available to us. And even if we do get them, we are not to get bound by the siddhi or have egoic pride because we have developed certain powers, because that is not our goal. Our goal is to just dissolve ourselves in the infinite truth. Swami Kriyananda ji says, one who is established in continence achieves full vigor. Continence not only strengthens the will, but increases the available energy. Okay, Sutra number 39. In this, Patanjali is telling us the perfection that is achieved by the practice of non-greed, aparigraha. Aparigraha sthairya janma kathanta sambodha, meaning when a yogi has mastered the quality of non-possessiveness, his energy of appreciation shifts to the subtle reality. Thus, he perceives the reason for the births he recently took and why others took up a certain body. In Jainism, aparigraha is the virtue of non-possessiveness, non-grasping, and non-greediness. So different धर्मों में इसकी बात की गई है. It refers to keeping the desire for possessions to what is necessary or important, depending on one's life stage and context. The precept of aparigraha is a self-restraint from the type of greed and avarice, where one's own material gain or happiness comes by hurting, killing, destroying life forms or nature. So this is Jainism. In Jainism, this is what aparigraha is. You do not grab onto anything, even if you think it belongs to you. And therefore, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम खाना नहीं खाएंगे या घर में नहीं रहेंगे या कपड़े नहीं पहनेंगे. इसका ये मतलब है कि हम अपनी बेसिक नीड्स को फुलफिल करेंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू नेसेसिटी एंड इंपॉर्टेंस एंड कॉन्टेक्स्ट. उससे ज्यादा हमें नहीं इकट्ठा करना है. Swami Kriyananda says, one who becomes established in non-attachment develops the ability to remember his past lives. The reason for this phenomenon is that attachment to this particular body and to the places, possessions, events, and things of this particular time make this incarnation appear to be your only reality. When attachment to the present reality is overcome, your views of reality naturally expand over a broader field. Okay, so I'll also read out what Swami Vivekananda said, and then we'll discuss this matter. So Swami Vivekananda says, when he is fixed in non-receiving, Swamiji is very, Vivekananda talks a lot about non-receiving of gifts. So he gets the memory of past life. Okay, so ये कैसा पॉसिबल है कि पास्ट लाइफ की मेमोरी आ सकती है? तो इसमें बहुत सारे सच इन्वॉल्व हैं। एक तो अगर हम भगवत गीता पढ़ें और कृष्ण की बात हम ये माने, कृष्ण ने अर्जुन को कहा है, दिस इज नॉट द फर्स्ट टाइम दैट यू और आई आर हियर, वी हैव बीन हियर मल्टीपल टाइम्स, यू एंड विल बी मल्टीपल टाइम्स. You do not remember the number of times that you have come here, but I know all of them. So one truth, that humans are born again and again and again, and that is one truth that we have to accept. The law of reincarnation has to be accepted. So now once that is clearly accepted, then the question is, why do I not remember my past lifetimes? So in a sense, it's good that we don't remember our past lifetimes, because so many times we have had so many diseases or financial difficulties or problems with our children or our parents or relatives and so on, that if we were to remember all of that, we would go crazy and we would not be able to live this life, because there would be so much of fear of having a health problem or of dying of this or that, or maybe we were in war in previous lifetimes, we do not know. So in a sense, it's good on a superficial level that that memory is at least superficially erased for us and we get a new start every time. But that data, however, is stored in the subconscious mind. And if we are right now, our problem is when we come into one particular body, our energy is going down and out, and all our senses are grabbing the data of the present time. And this is what we think the reality is, and all our energy is flowing in that direction. Now, if by practicing the yamas, and that includes non-greed, means not going outwards, if we withdraw all that energy, and if we hold it within ourselves, then since we are not attached to the things of this world, and also we come to a point where we realize we are not this body is only a house that we are living in or a garment that we are wearing, then from that point we will remember that there were other bodies that we had and other relationships that we had and other stories that we lived. So for that, we have to come to that point of non-possession, that nothing in this world belongs to me. Even this body through which I am living also does not belong to me. And from that vantage point, will I understand the lives that I have lived, and I will get glimpses of my past lives, and in fact will also start to understand why others are living the life they are living. And that's why masters can actually see the karma of the disciples previously and help them in particular ways so that they would transcend certain specific limitations. So ये possible है. कई बार स्वप्न में, कई बार मेडिटेशन में आपको पास्ट लाइफ ग्लिम्पसेस आ सकते हैं, और ये आना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है. इनफैक्ट कहीं ना कहीं स्वामी जी ने बहुत बताया है कि हमें अपनी सारी पास्ट लाइफ आइडेंटिफिकेशन से भी राइज होना पड़ेगा by reaching samadhi state in meditation, and by working out that karma in our meditation, and realizing that in all those lifetimes, in all the roles that we played, actually God was the doer. So unless we do that, we are not going to get the release. So it is important to accept the law of reincarnation and to understand that we can know our past by withdrawing our energy within. So meditation और क्रिया योगा इसीलिए इतने wonderful हैं क्योंकि वो हमें एक अपने आप ही एनर्जी विड्रॉ करते हैं. जब एनर्जी विड्रॉ होती है तो हमारे लिए जो यमास हैं, ये प्रैक्टिस करना आसान हो जाता है. और जब हम यमास अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो हमारे लिए मेडिटेशन आसान हो जाती है, क्योंकि हम एनर्जी वेस्ट करना बंद कर देते हैं. हम झूठ नहीं बोल रहे हैं, हम चोरी नहीं कर रहे हैं, हम कॉन्टिनेंस प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं, हम एनर्जी को कंजर्व कर रहे हैं, और फिर हम क्रिया योग प्रैक्टिस से हम उसको स्पाइन से ऊपर ले जा रहे हैं. तो हम इस वर्ल्ड से हमारी प्रेजेंट जो हम सोचते हैं कि रियलिटी है टेम्पररी, हम उससे विड्रॉ करते हैं और फिर हम एक लार्जर व्यू देख पाते हैं. अगर हम द न्यू पाथ पढ़ें जो स्वामी जी ने लिखी है, उसमें स्वामी जी कहते हैं कि मास्टर कितनी आम तौर पे और आम भाषा में पुनर्जन्म की बात किया करते थे कि हमारा जो व्यू था वो ब्रॉडन होता था. वो जैसे किसी को कहते थे कि आप पिछले जन्म में ये थे, अपने बारे में उन्होंने बताया that he was William the Conqueror, that he was Arjuna. He was the king of Spain, I think Ferdinand III. So he told about his own reincarnations, and he also told disciples around him who they were in their past lives. So when he talked in such ways, and he also said that Stalin in Russia was Genghis Khan previously. So he talked about multiple people, their past lives, and their possible futures. To Durga Mata, he said that you are going to have a female body for another 3 lifetimes, and so on. So he just knew it. It's just because he was in that consciousness from which reading this data, which is stored in the ether, is not difficult. It is not a wonder. He is just he knows the law of that science, and he is able to use it. For us, it seems like a big thing because we haven't been able to silence ourselves so much to go into the stillness of the soul that we can access that data. But it is accessible if we keep trying. It is accessible. Again, हमने ये नहीं करना है कि हम अपनी hallucinatory imagination में कोई भी थॉट और हम सोचे कि ओहो ये तो हमारी पास्ट लाइफ से रिलेटेड है और अब हमें ऐसा करना है, तो हमें ऐसे इमेजिनरी hallucinations में नहीं जाना है. When you will get a past life thought, you will know it in your heart that yes, this probably is a past life thought. And just in that thought also, once you receive that thought or an imagery in your mind, just give it to God. Says, God, whatever I was in the past, you did it through me. I belong to you alone. All I have said, all I have done out of ignorance, it all belongs to you eventually. And I would surrender everything at thy feet. So free yourself, try to free yourself as much as you can. And also from the present moment, also know that whatever is happening right now is happening by the will of God. And we do not need to be greedy. We do not need to steal. Our Heavenly Father and Mother, they are the king and queen of the universe, and they are our parents. They already know what we need. And therefore, we will receive at the right time, when the season is right, whatever our need is, whether it is a financial need, whether it is a friendly need, a social need, or a spiritual need. They will know when we are ready for samadhi, and it will be given to us. Just like loving parents give their children gifts at the appropriate times, because the parents know when the child needs what. So to have that trust and live free. If we just practice the yamas, we are free already in a sense. हमें कुछ भी गलत करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. हम अपने नेचर में, अपने प्योर स्वभाव में यदि उसी में ठहर जाते हैं, तो कुछ और ना पाना ना खोना. हम already we are there. So let's just be more careful. Again, the important thing for the yogi is to be alert and aware. What thoughts are happening in my mind? How am I dealing with them? Am I engaging with them, those thoughts again and again? Or I'm allowing them to pass, only picking the right thoughts and letting go the others. So here 2 thoughts are coming to me right now. So Babaji said that in this world, be like the wise ant. This world is a mixture of sugar and sand. Pick up the sugar, leave the sand. So consider it with your thoughts. जो अच्छे और बुरे विचार दोनों आपके मेंटल स्काई में आ रहे हैं. Be the wise ant, pick up the good thoughts, leave the negative thoughts. And also Patanjali has given us a key today. Whenever a negative thought is happening, उसको cancel करने के लिए consciously introduce a positive thought. So that is one thing. Another thought that is coming to me is of Ravan. So Ravan was a wise guy. He said, whenever a good thought comes to you, उसको immediately कर लो. Suppose आपके मन में आया कि ना मैं उस person को ये दे दूंगा तो अच्छा रहेगा, उसको दे दो, manifest it. और अगर कोई भी बुरा विचार आए तो उसको procrastinate कर दो, उसको postpone कर दो कि बाद में. So this is a trick that you can do with your own mind. So we have to remember these things. These are very, very helpful. And all these siddhis, the masters have attained them, and there is a potentiality for us, because all of us are not different from the masters in a sense. We are that same soul, the same super soul, the same Atman and Paramatman. It's amazing when saints say that God, thou and I stand on the same ground. It's amazing. So we all have that potentiality to be like Christ, to be like Krishna, to be like the masters. And that's why these avatars have actually come into our life, to awaken us, to remind us of who we are. And when bodily troubles, mental troubles, they come, just watch them, do the needful, and then forget it. Just let go. and practice all these yamas with sincerity at all levels: speech, thought, action, behavior, intention, vibration. So when we take care of all these things, our life becomes so synchronous with the universal flow of truth that then you start to feel that, oh, life is beautiful. Before that, life becomes very, very challenging, very difficult. But just by the practice of the yamas, we can come to a point where we can say life is beautiful. Okay. With that thought, my dear friends, we'll end today's class and we'll share these beautiful vibrations and this amazing wisdom with the world at large, with all souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Om. 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 Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.